Hey guys, welcome back to our online home buying seminar. If we haven't met before, my name is Eric Anojos with First Coast Heroes Real Estate, and this is video 5 of our 7-part series of the home buying process. And in this video, I'm going to talk about what it looks like to make an offer. So we're going to understand the offer process. We're going to talk about different competitive market strategies, contingencies and due diligence periods that are part of the offer process, and then finally, any type of counteroffers and negotiations that go into the offer process. So let's go ahead and break it down. Let's understand the components of an offer. So first off is the price, right? So let's say a house is listed at $300,000. Are you going to come in at list price? Are you going to come a little bit below? Or are you going to come a little bit above? That's right. I did say above because we have seen some markets where it's just ultra competitive and you may need to offer them more than they're asking. So there's some other contingencies that are in the offer as well. So you have financing contingencies, inspection contingencies, and then you have like your home sale contingency. So we'll start off with home sale contingency. So a home sale contingency, all that means is that, let's say you own a current home, but in order for you to buy a new home, you have to sell your current home. That's all a home sale contingency is. The trouble that we may run into is that when we present your offer over to the seller and it's like, hey, we've got this great offer for you, but in order for us to move forward and purchase your home, we have to sell their current home. So that could kind of could be a little bumpy road there. So the ways to navigate that is that, like, hey, if you're gonna need to sell your home prior to purchasing a new home, is your home on the market? If not, when's it scheduled to be on the market? But let's say your house is on the market. Does it have an active offer, active contract on it? If so, how far along in the process are you? Have you guys gone through inspections, appraisals? Are you guys essentially just waiting to close? So those are all the different questions we're going to need to have available and ready to go when we present your offer to the seller. So is it impossible to buy a home if you have a home sale contingency? No, not at all. We've done it all the time. As a listing agent, I'll receive offers that are home sale contingency. As a buyer's agent, I'll submit offers that are home sale contingencies. It's just another step in the process and things to think about and navigate. And we'll equip you with everything that you need to know in order to make your offer super attractive to the seller so they can accept our offer. The other thing that we're going to talk about is financing contingencies. Financing contingency just means that you need to have financing in order to qualify for the home. So typically there's a loan approval process number that we can add in there. And so typically it's anywhere between 25, 35 days, depending on the loan type. So we're usually running like 30 days for the loan approval process. But another part of that financing contingency is the appraisal. So let's just say we are under contract on a $300,000 home, but the appraisal comes in at $290,000. Do you still have to move forward with that purchase? Absolutely not. You can actually pull away, retain your binder deposit, and we move on. But let's say that we get to day 27 of the loan approval process and you have that financing contingency in there, and for some reason something came up in your credit history, or maybe you lost a job. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but there's so many things that can happen, right? And maybe you just don't qualify for the loan. At that point, as long as you're within your loan approval process period, you can pull out and you can retain your earnest money deposit. So that's definitely an important thing to pay attention to, is your financing contingency. The last one is your inspection contingency period. We also call your due diligence period. So we typically here in Northeast Florida have an understanding that it's a 10-day, by default, it's a 10-day period. It can be a little less, it can be a little bit more, but by default, it's 10 days. And that 10 days, you can do all your inspections, you can research insurance, you can find out if there is any type of things going on behind, or construction around, or different easements, all your due diligence that you need to know about the property. Like maybe there's an HOA and you read their bylaws and you're like, oh, I don't know if I can live in this neighborhood. All that information, all that research needs to be done within that first 10 days. It's called your inspection period, your due diligence period. The nice thing about here in Northeast Florida is that it's a free 10-day look. So you can do your inspections. You don't even have to do inspections. And you can pull out of the contract with no penalty to you. So you can return your earnest money deposit. If you've paid for inspections, that's pretty much the only thing you're going to have to pay for out of pocket. But let's say you haven't even done inspections because you found out the area flooded or it's prone to flooding, and you're like, oh, I don't want to live there. So yeah, you can definitely pull out of that. So that's your due diligence period, your inspection period. It's typically 10 days. So other terms that are inside your contract are things like your earnest money deposit. So if you remember from our previous video, we said earnest money deposits are typically about 1% of the purchase price. So if you're buying a $300,000 home, you can expect that earnest money to be $3,000. Now that money is yours, guys. It doesn't go to the seller. It goes to this place called a title company. The title company will hold your $3,000. But in the event that you default outside the protections of the contract, like your appraisal protection, your inspection period protection, your loan approval protection, like let's say you're doing everything right and unfortunately you got to pull out of the contract, then that $3,000 will come back to you. But let's say we're outside any of those protections that are inside the contract and let's say you get to closing date, your loan was approved, you already done all your inspections. There's really no reason that you shouldn't be buying this home, but you have the ability to buy it, but you decide not to, then that's going to be collateral damage for these sellers. So more than likely they're going to retain that $3,000 and that'll be essentially damages for taking their house off the market for so long and the house didn't close. So the other terms are in the contract are your closing dates. So when you're structuring your offer together with your agent, you definitely want to see when the seller can close. So maybe they put their market in anticipation that the house is going to sit on the market for a little bit just due to market stats, right? So maybe they listed it here in July 1st, but they can't sell it until October. So definitely find out if that's going to work out with your timeline and see if there's a compromise you can make and then kind of work with the seller as well. Closing costs. Are you asking the seller for any closing costs? Do you need that 3%, 2%, 1% of those closing costs covered? That's something you're going to want to put into your offer as well. And maybe there's some personal items that the seller had, like a really nice table or I don't know, maybe a jacuzzi or a shed. There's spots on the contract that you can write that in. So just make sure that those things that you think are coming with the property are staying with the property. So typically what we do is we think about the house. So if you could take a house, flip it upside down and you shake it, anything that falls is considered personal property. So that's typically going to leave the house. But if it stays attached to the house, we consider that property that's going to stay with the home. So it kind of gets a little gray and can kind of get a little hazy. So we definitely recommend that you mark down everything you think is going to come home or come with the sale of the home. So like a washer, dryer, the fridge, things like that, the stove. And then lastly, like if you're asking for a home warranty, you're definitely going to want to add that into the contracts. Like, hey, I want home warranty from American Home Shield for $700. That'll come out as a seller expense. Hey guys, this is where we kind of get to the finesse part of the negotiation. So we always say, hey, do you want a house or do you want a deal? And I'm happy to do either, right? So if you want a deal, get in there, be aggressive. Like, no, I'm going to take this, and this is what I want. Take it or leave it. That's a good deal, right? There's a time and place for that. But let's say this, like, I need this house. I really want this house. So maybe you're just going to have to be a little bit more flexible with your offer terms and see if you can make some compromises there. So when we're in a really tough market environment, we need to have some competitive market strategies available. So being pre-approved, like we talked about in the last video, is definitely going to set you up for success. We have a pre-approval when we submit it with our offer. We're saying like, hey, we are pre-approved. Here's our offer. We are ready to move forward with this home. You definitely want to act quickly as well. Like we said, there's that due diligence period, that inspection period. So you have a free 10 days, but you want to act rather quickly, right? So once you go under contract, you get a 3-day period to submit your earnest money deposit. So even with your offer, at least this is how it is in Northeast Florida, you don't have to really spend any money. Just within that first 3 days, you have to submit your earnest money. But let's say you got your offer accepted, you slept on it, you're like, I'm having buyer's remorse, I don't want to buy the home. Perfectly fine, guys, just pull out. But the benefit to acting quickly is that, let's just say somebody else had looked at the house the day before and they slept on it, and then they're responding to the house and they're making an offer on the day that you're sleeping on it. So, sometimes people here in the real estate industry say that, if you sleep on it, you may not be sleeping in it because, maybe the house, came off the market and somebody else swooped it up and snatched it up from us. So you should be ready to act quickly. Just know that you have those 10 days to pull out if you need to. So that way you can, if you're experiencing buyer's remorse, you are protected. But let's say that you submitted an offer. We are competing against other offers. There are several ways that we can stand out against the competition, right? We can give them what we call a clean offer. Like you give them their offer price. You're not asking for any concessions. You're not asking for any home warranties. You're giving them the closing date that they want. And so like that's what we call a clean offer. At a minimum, that's what you're going to want to do in an ultra competitive situation, especially if you're in a multiple offer scenario. If you are in that multiple offer scenario, not only are you going to need to do the clean offer, but you more than likely are going to have to submit an offer higher than list price. And then that comes with a whole different slew of strategies as well. So let's say that you found a home and you're in a multiple offer situation. It's at $300,000, but you're going to offer, let's say, $315,000. Well, the listing agent on the other end is probably pretty savvy as well and says, well, there's no way this house is going to appraise at $350,000. And that's the reason we priced it at $300,000 because I think that's the max that we're going to be able to get out of this house. So there's this thing called an appraisal gap. So between $300,000 and $315,000, let's just say that, hey, I can actually cover all that $15,000 in the event it doesn't appraise at $315,000. I'm going to still give you your $315,000 because I'm going to make up the difference in an appraisal gap. So that's one strategy there. So not only did you submit your clean offer, you offered above list price, you are now also offering an appraisal gap addendum. So that's one really great strategy there. The other one too is what we call an escalation clause. So let's say that the house is listed at $300,000. You're like, I'm willing to go up to $350,000, but I'm going to escalate it up to $350,000 by like, let's say $5,000. So let's say your offer is at $300,000. There's another offer that comes in at $310,000. Your offer now automatically gets bumped up to $315,000, and it'll keep going up and up and up until you hit your threshold of $350,000. It's kind of like eBay, right? It's got the auto bid, and it'll keep going up. And then so at that point, not only did you do your escalation clause, but you can even say I'm willing to do an appraisal gap from $300,000 that I offered up all the way to the end of my escalation clause at $350,000, and I'm going to cover all $50,000. And now, man, now your offer is looking really good, right? So things like that. So, you got escalation clauses, you've got appraisal gaps, you got clean offers, you got the closing date that the seller wants. Another thing, offer personalized letters to the sellers. And that way we're trying to stand out from the crowd now. We're putting a tangible person behind that offer. It's like, this is an actual person that's submitting an offer. It's not just black and white paper here and numbers. Like, this is a person or a family that wants to move into your home. Like, look at them. So I would definitely talk to your real estate agent. Maybe they have different things, but I always like submitting personalized letters. Okay, so now that you've done your offer, you've submitted your offer, you've given them the best thing you have for it. So now you submit it, and now you're waiting. Now that waiting period is going to feel forever. On average, it's about a 24-hour period that you're going to wait. So let's say you submitted it on Monday at 5 p.m. You should, on average, typically hear back from them by 5 p.m. on Tuesday. Now it depends on the market. Let's say that the house has been sitting on the market for a while. It's been 2 or 3 months. I bet you're going to get a response pretty darn quick. But if it's a hot house, and there's a lot of other offers coming in, they may not respond to you until the end of that 24-hour period. Or they may say, hey, we have multiple offers and that we're accepting buyers highest and best by 5 p.m. on Thursday. So just kind of stay flexible with that. But typically you're going to need a counter offer if your offer wasn't accepted. So let's say the house was listed at $300,000. The house was on the market for 30 days. You're like, well, let's just come in at 97% of the asking price and see if they'll work with us. So let's just say you come in at let's say $290 or something like that. And then they counter you at $295. Typically, there's another 24 hours that we have to get back to them after they counter us. Now, counter offers can be done in multiple ways. They can either be done verbally over the phone, they can be done via text message, an email, or you can actually do it very formally. The seller can say, hey, I counter your offer to $295, and they sign it. They sign the rest of the offer, and then they give it to us, and then we can sign it. So there's different ways there. Some best practices are to get everything formalized. That way you know that the seller has actually seen it, but things kind of happen pretty quickly. So, it's not uncommon to get a text message or a phone call saying, hey, here's the verbal counter. So it's going to go back and forth, right? It's like a little song and dance. The art of the negotiation this is where it comes into. So, both buyer and seller, they've got a common goal, right? The seller's trying to sell their house. The buyer's trying to get a good deal, not feel like taken advantage of, but they're also trying to buy this house. So instead of attacking the problem between buyer and seller, like these two personalities, attack this problem, right? The house is the problem here. Like, I'm trying to get this home, the seller's trying to let it go. So see how we can strategize our negotiations to look at the house as the thing we're negotiating and not the people. And once, like, if we start attacking people, insulting them, then these things can get a little dirty and a little nasty. So we definitely want to keep feelings away from it. Just try to look at it from an objective perspective and try to work together to find a common goal and a common result, and a result that works for everybody. So I definitely say that. I mean, yeah, if you want to be tough and a hard driver, yeah, maybe you're going to get your deal, but you may burn that relationship. Maybe the seller's like, I don't have time for this. I ain't even work with them. And then not even give us an opportunity to keep going back and forth. But sometimes, like if you're going to be really nice and sweet about it and really kind, you can kind of find some common ground pretty easily. So, all right, guys, well, this kind of gets to the end of our video here. So if you have any questions or anything I can cover or answer for you, please let me know. My email is hello@firstcoastheroes.com, or call me or text me at 904-607-7202. All right, guys, we will see you over in video 6.